yes, we do have new overlays. And I got decaf coffee. Hello, we're back. It is a beautiful Wednesday evening where it's actually starting to get dark out at 8 o'clock. I don't know if you noticed that if you're living on the East Coast. This is Eric Allen from Holistic Life Consultants. This is no longer Life Coach Coast to Coast. This is Holistic Life Consultants, the Life Coach Twitch. Or if you're on YouTube, obviously, the Life Coach. And if you're on Instagram, the Life Coach Insta. We're all over the place as the Life Coach. So I'm happy to get that change out of the way. I appreciate the new overlay. I did not do that. That was obviously somebody else. But I appreciate that. I like the colors. It's more true to the brand and everything that we're doing here. So very thankful. All right. So I just got back here. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. If you're here from Ricada's stream, you know what that means. L plus G. How are you guys doing? And we're going to turn that off. All right, so thank you for being here. Thank you for coming here on a Wednesday evening. It is 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It's actually like 8:19 because I'm a little bit late. But it's important because I got today's mug of decaf coffee, which is for the week. I think I'm going to keep Darth Vader mug because not everybody gets to see it every day. We're going to take a sip before this gets cold because it's getting there. For some reason, and comment below or in the chat if you think decaf coffee does not taste the same as caffeinated coffee. It's not as good. I got to find a good decaf coffee. If you have suggestions on where I can procure such a magical thing, let me know. I'll be happy to try out any of your suggestions. This is not that great. So how's everybody doing? How is your Wednesday going? We're in the middle of the week. This is hump day. If you're a 9-to-5er, which I know that a lot of people are, this is the middle of your week. You've gotten through the middle day. Congratulations. It is now the evening. You're free to roam about the cabin. You can put your tray tables down. You can put your seats back, and you can listen as we talk about some interesting concepts in life coaching and psychology. Today, you may have noticed that the stream is called Fear the Fool. And the reason for that, we're going to talk about clowns, everybody's favorite, but fools and gestures. We're going to talk about some Shakespeare, and we're going to talk about confirmation bias. Because a lot of these things kind of come together, and hopefully we can get a little serious about it, and at the same time, we're going to be extremely goofy about it. Although I don't think I'm going to bring up anything from Goofy. But let's check out the other overlay. Look at this. It's animated. It's fun. It's got some stuff moving around. And it has my live stream stuff on there. Has all my different social media platforms. This is just beautiful. It's good stuff. So we're going to use this overlay today. Chat should be in this box. I'm going to put it down here. Do display capture. And chat box should be above it. I think, anyway. We're going to try to use this chat box, but I don't know about it. I really don't know. If you guys can, if you're on Twitch and you want to talk about whatever, let's do that. Oh, the other thing I noticed on Twitch, which I have to go fix right now, is that it's on 10-minute follower only mode, which I did not ask for. So we're going to go to the channel. Let's see what's going on here. Because I want you to be able to comment even if you're new. I think I had that on for a bit because it was not okay. All right, info, goals. Do you guys know how to change that? Because I do not like that. Hello, Nicole. Let me see if I can check. I just don't want people to be screwed over from being able to say anything if they haven't been following for very long. Although, I mean, obviously, please do follow and then you can chat. But yeah, here we go. Chat. any followers. Okay. So now it should be good. You should be able to chat. Let's turn that off. I actually want it off. Remove followers only. Hey, now anybody could say anything they want. We'll see how well that goes. We'll see if it starts to get bot like that. So I had a lot of bots. We had people that would just jump on and they would start spamming, and then it was just annoying to put the ban hammer on a bunch of people. So I stopped doing that. So we are not going to do that. For now, we're just going to have information on the one side. We'll be talking, and then if you want to chat, you don't have to follow, although I appreciate it if you do. Obviously, if you're on YouTube, I could see that on my multicast on OBS. But let's get right into it. Let's talk about confirmation bias. So confirmation bias is the tendency to process information by looking for or interpreting information that is consistent with one's existing beliefs. So you're just going to find evidence that confirms things you already think are true. So why do I bring that up? Why does that matter? The reason why I'm talking about this is because a lot of what you see going on in the world right now, a lot of news, a lot of your political beliefs, a lot of your news beliefs, a lot of it is just servicing your confirmation bias. We look for things that continue to support things we already believe, but also we like people and things that confirm what we already believe is true. So that also means we don't like when people present us with information that we don't already believe is true. What I like about this is it gets right into it. This is Britannica, by the way, Britannica.com. I have an Encyclopedia Britannica in the office. Maybe I'll show that to you guys sometime. But the confirmation bias is one example of how humans sometimes process information in an illogical, biased manner. So what you need to know about confirmation bias is that it is not, let me put it this way, it doesn't make sense. You don't know, and it's not smart. It's an emotional appeal that people make to themselves to continue to believe things that they already think are true. So we're going to talk about confirmation bias probably a lot in the next, 3 months, 4 months, because confirmation bias is one of the problems. It's basically like, this is why echo chambers exist. It's more than just the algorithms pushing you closer and closer to people who believe the same things that you do. Confirmation bias is the thing that makes you want to seek out people who agree with you. It's the thing that makes you want to continue to watch people that just talk about the same shit that you already agree with. And this is why things like this program are more difficult. It's a difficult sell because I'm not telling you things that you just agree with already. It even says right here, humans are better able to rationally process information, giving equal weight to multiple viewpoints if they're emotionally distant from the issue. Although a low level of confirmation bias can still occur when an individual has no vested interest. So even if you think you don't care about a topic, it's still hard for you to listen to new information that would not disprove, but show you different information that might run counter to what you already believe. So this talks about why. So like one explanation for why humans are susceptible to confirmation bias is that it's an efficient way to process information. So you know this. We live in this world. We're in the social media generation or world or whatever. I don't know. We're post-social media generation. We're starting to get into that generation of people where it's like people don't even want to learn online. They don't want to talk to people online. They actually just want to talk to people in real life. I was just hanging out with a bunch of people in real life. Sorry, I got to clip my microphone. It keeps dropping. It's very heavy. People want to keep hanging out in real life now above hanging out online because online people are fake half the time. Like they're bots, they're scammers, or they're not really who they are in real life. So I don't know if you've ever seen this or experienced this. I have, for sure. You get blasted by somebody online. They comment nasty things and they're just real jerks about their opinion and why you're stupid and why you're evil. Or they'll say things, you'll see their social media posts, and they just say horrible things about people that think or believe your opinion. And then you talk to them in real life, and you're like, oh, this person's cool. And they think you're cool, and you're good. You guys are fine. That's the social media funneling people to believe, well, everybody who disagrees with me is stupid. Everybody who disagrees with me is racist. Everybody who disagrees with me is a moron. They're uninformed. They are evil in some way. They're broken. We give no benefit of the doubt when we're online. And the reason for that is, for the most part, you're not talking to anybody online. Like even this video chat, you're hearing me, you're seeing me if you're looking. If you're not, you're just listening and it's a podcast format. But if you're talking to somebody, you're actually listening to them. It's a multimedia approach versus when you're reading comments from people. And this is like kind of one of my pet peeves. Like if you're reading something somebody wrote and you're reading something that goes counter to what you believe, it's a lot like they're attacking you. Like there's an actual feeling that something is wrong, like that there's something, they're either trying to hurt you or trying to attack you, or they're lying because they're not saying something that you believe. So this continues to say, human decision-making and information processing is often biased because people are limited to interpreting information from their own viewpoint. So this tends to happen a lot with information that is not relevant to you in your day-to-day life. Because think about it, like if you don't have personal experience with something, let's say that there's an article on construction and you're not in construction. You have no idea how construction works. You have no idea how building anything works, how much materials are, nothing. You don't know anything about it. But you do have a viewpoint that we should be trying to protect the environment. And so this article comes out that says, all these construction people have to do is build in a different way, and then we would be able to protect the environment. And you're like, yeah, that's stupid. Why wouldn't we do that? There's, maybe 20 reasons for that. Maybe it's more expensive. Maybe the parts to make it better for the environment don't exist. But the article that you read, it just makes a point that you already agree with. Protecting environment, good. Now, you are not emotionally invested at all in construction projects. It's not your deal. But then you see the comments section. And you see people who are like, yeah, duh, this is so stupid. Why wouldn't this just be a law? And you're like, yeah, I agree with that. Because environment, good. Protect environment, good. This seems very stupid. Then you have somebody else that comments, I'm a third generation construction worker and this is impossible. And the people who wrote this article know nothing about this. It's not that simple. If they're going to mandate something, they should have to provide the materials because they don't exist enough to build a giant building. That doesn't land the same as the person who says, yeah, we should just do this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like it's obvious to us that we agree environment good. We don't really have a vested interest in whether or not a construction project goes down. So we're protecting our belief. We're angry or we don't like the person who has the comment that's counter to what we believe. And so we just hold on to our belief and we listen to all the comments and we skip all the nasty comments that say things that we don't believe. And we keep reading all the comments that agree with us. And we're like, yeah, see, I'm smart. I'm right. Look at all these other people who are smart and right because they agree with me. And obviously they should agree with me because I am the smartest person on the planet. So people want to feel that they are intelligent, and information that suggests one holds an inaccurate belief or made a poor decision suggests one is lacking intelligence. I love this explanation because I see this all the time. I'm usually a passive observer to social media. I don't comment. I don't post things on Facebook. You'll notice my Facebook is just my media streams. So it's just this, and I don't really post anything. And I certainly don't post quote-unquote objectionable material, even if it's kind of funny. There's plenty of things on the internet that are funny that you can't really have fun with anymore. It's not 2008 internet. I think we all know that. But there's a reason why everybody jumps and dog piles on a post that disagrees with them. We have a vested interest in being intelligent, which is really interesting because I do want to bring this up real quick. Let me go to the full screen chat. And you guys can comment about whether or not you think you're always right, because I know I am. But you can comment about that. But let me just put up something real quick. There is I want to find the right image for this. Not everybody's as intelligent as everybody else. And I think it's really important to know that. Here we go. Okay, so let me show you this. Let me know if you can't see this, but here's the intelligence IQ bell curve, okay? The frequency in population is up. That's the y-axis. The x-axis is IQ score. If you look at the majority of people, 68% of the population is in the 185 to 115. That's a huge percentage of the population. If you go a little bit to the outliers, you might get to the 115 to 130. And then obviously everybody below that. So 90-some%, in fact, 97.9% of the population fits everywhere in this curve except for after 130. So if you have a 130 plus IQ, you are in the top 2.1% of the population in intelligence. Now, intelligence isn't everything. I want to be really clear about that. I have the always right disease. Yeah, everybody does. You're not the only one. Everybody has the always right disease. And I'm pointing this out because in this quote unquote normal distribution, it's basically showing you that only 2% of us are more intelligent than literally 98% of us. However, if you look at 68% of the population, it fits within 85 to 115 IQ. So it is a matter of fact that not everybody is smarter than everybody else. In fact, most people are less intelligent than the very small minority of people. However, that being said, confirmation bias happens because it's important for our self-esteem or our ego to believe that we're smarter than everybody else. Maybe some of you are. Maybe some of you have that IQ that's over 130, and that's okay. You could be more intelligent. It doesn't mean you're not dumb, and I'll get into that in a little bit, and we're going to get into jesters and fools and things like that, because historically speaking, people who end up winning wars, so let's go to like Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan. Here's people who win wars and strategy. Sun Tzu, they win because they were very intelligent. They looked at the battlefield, they were able to understand how this all works, and they were able to outsmart their opponents. So in terms of leadership, for the most part, the cream rose to the top. Now, that's not true when it came to all the like England and France and all these other countries that were like interbreeding with all the royalty, and then it ended up causing all kinds of like genetic issues, and you see the royal family today. But aside from slamming a bunch of rich royal people who never did anything for what they have, not nothing, I can't say that, but they didn't earn it the way that their great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents probably did. The people who got into positions of power actually were very smart. They were smarter than most people. And those people knew enough back in the day, like we're talking 13, 14, 1500s, to have what is called the jester, the court jester. So the king had somebody who would pick on him. And it was entertaining for the king, but it actually served a different purpose. For the intelligent leader, somebody who was willing to make fun of what they said and did was somebody who had the brass to critique this person. And this person, being intelligent or wise, would be able to pick up on that, and then they would try to improve. If you're not questioning yourself, if you're not looking at different evidence that doesn't just continually confirm what you already believe, chances are you're not getting the whole picture, and a lot of times you're probably wrong. Confirmation bias tells us that even when we are wrong, we don't care. Because this biased approach to decision making is largely unintentional, meaning you're not thinking about your thinking. You're not metacognating. So you're basically, it's unintentional, and it often results in ignoring inconsistent information. So you say, well, all dogs bark. And then there's there's a row of like 13 experiences you have with dogs. 2 of them didn't bark. You completely ignore those and you say all dogs bark. Okay, but 2 didn't, but you don't care. You ignore that. So, look at that today. You have like all people that believe this are blank, whether they're racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever. You just believe everybody who thinks a certain thing must also be bad in this way. Forget the people you know who have to secretly believe those things and not tell you. Forget the people who you know who do speak out and they have these different opinions than you. You ignore that evidence and you just still say, well, I know all those people are bad. It's easy, right? It's like fairly easy. So people are especially likely to process information to support their own beliefs when the issue is highly important or self-relevant. This happens a lot with people. We talked yesterday about trauma, right? We had this whole conversation and discussion about trauma, the difference between really having trauma and not. And so I speak to people who truly believe that they've been traumatized. And when I present them with the definition of trauma and PTSD and like really what it means to have a disorder from your trauma, or when you try to point out that somebody else has trauma, for example, I had to deal with that yesterday. Hopefully I get to fix that this weekend. But yesterday, even after the stream, so pretty late, I had to deal with the fact that one person was expressing trauma. And their significant other was like, yeah, but I don't like that you're being manipulative. Okay, but you're ignoring the information that they just gave you, which was that they will do things irrationally because of their trauma. And they gave you evidence, and they gave you information, and you're choosing to ignore that because it doesn't confirm your belief system. And that's a problem. It's a problem because being correct often leads to being miserable. It's better for you to figure out that you're wrong and live better tomorrow. And I have this on my dry erase board in my office right now. It says, I'd rather be wrong and happy than right and miserable. That's something that you should probably be trying to say to yourself all the time, because it's so much easier. There is so much ego in the way of getting new information and learning something from somebody else or doing something differently. There's so much vested interest emotionally and irrationally to continue to believe what you believe that this becomes a serious issue when somebody's trying to tell you something that runs counter to your beliefs. I need to focus on this charity. Well, you can't pay your bills. Right, but I want to be generous. So you read a bunch of articles that talk about the benefits of generosity. You're like, see, I'm doing the right thing. I'm living my life well. My grandparents are perfect examples of that. They were very generous people. They donated to the church all the time. They couldn't pay their bills. They were in a ton of debt. They literally did not have money to give to somebody else because they were borrowing money from somebody else. But if you tried to explain that to them, they just continually ignored you and said things like, well, you know, it's right to give. It's right to be generous. It's a good thing. Like, they were good Catholic people, you know, so they wanted to do the right thing, quote unquote. But when they both passed away, and I love my grandparents, they were the best. They left behind a ton of debt that never got paid. So people that they promised to give money to never got that money. And is that right? I don't know. I mean, you think about it, but you can think about it now because you're not vested. You don't have a vested interest in that. They firmly believed in their heart of hearts that they were correct to donate money every month that they did not have. That confirmation bias created poverty in my family generationally. So was it right? No, probably not. But for them, they kept confirming it because the church kept telling them it was a good idea. They kept reading stuff about how it was a good idea. They would talk to other people in the church that would tell them how good they are and how generous they are. That's all confirmation bias. It strokes your ego to find information that confirms what you already think is true. So evidence. Confirmation bias is strong and widespread, occurring in several contexts. In the context of decision making, once an individual makes a decision, he or she will look for information that supports it. Duh. So we talked about that already. This was one of my favorite parts of cognition class. So when I was, I'll go over this for a minute. When I was in college, I was a work study for Dr. Bechtold. He was the professor who ran cognition for the whole school, for Messiah. And I had to go through his lectures every week. Not only did I take his cognition class, but he recorded himself, and I had to go through the scripts and his actual lectures, and I would teach a voice recognition software program how to understand his language better so that eventually it would become more and more accurate. And it did. It became quite accurate. It was like 85, 90% by the end, able to do closed captioning for him, which is why I'm so impressed with Facebook being able to say Dr. Ocelatopus on closed captioning, because when I was helping develop that software for IBM back in 2004 to 2006, it really wasn't that good at all anywhere. And so I listened over and over and over again to this cognition class for years. So 2 times a week, every semester, for all of my undergrads. So when it comes to cognitive psychology, I mean, I've gone over that information 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14 times, 15 times. Same information in cognitive psych. And this was one of my favorite things he would do, because he would have cards and he would show you which card that he wanted. You thought, like, he showed, like, I don't know, the 2 of spades or whatever, and he would like have it in his hand, and then he would flip one card and it wasn't the 2 of spades, and then he'd flip the other card over and he'd say, you know, is this one the 2 of spades or not, for the one that you couldn't see. And because you didn't see the last card, but you assumed that one of those 3 cards was the one that he held up first, you said, well, obviously it is. And then it wasn't, because it was a trick, but you believed it that it was, just because you saw that what it wasn't. Hey, Nightmare Gamer, what's going on, man? We're just talking about some confirmation bias up in here. So it was a fun experiment that he would do every semester to kind of open this up and open this conversation up. But I think confirmation bias is one of the most important things for us to kind of wrestle with. If you were to look at like self-improvement for like learning something new, bridging the gap between the 2 sides politically in this world, or like understanding your enemy, confirmation bias would be it. Just chilling? Yeah, I'm just chilling too. That's what I do. We're just hanging out and we're doing life coaching for fun and for profit. Oh, by the way, Nightmare Gamer, check out the emotes. I think that you're subscribed, so you can actually use all the new emotes. I put like 3 new ones out because Twitch apparently is giving them out like candy now. So what's the importance? Confirmation bias is important because it may lead people to hold strongly to false beliefs. We literally will believe things that are not true. Way more. We hold on to it way more than we should given the evidence. People may be overconfident in their beliefs because they've accumulated evidence to support them. I mean, if you keep hearing the same things from the same people over and over, and I see this on YouTube and Twitch all the time. And my favorite streamers, and I love my streamers dearly. I'm not going to call them out by name. Maybe I'll talk to them and then they can give me permission. But for now, I'm not going to. But these people, they'll just give quote-unquote advice or their opinions on things. And I mean, no offense, but bro, you're playing Rust. Like, I get that you believe what you say, and I understand that, but these people that don't realize that they're giving the same opinions over and over to people, it's just making them reinforce something that a lot of times is wrong. Like, it's just flat out wrong. Like, I know it is. Like, it's not, it's definitely not the correct or best opinion on things. So, it's a really big, it's an issue that I see on social media, because one of the other things that people forget, and I'll go over this, I'll look this up. There's definitely a term for it, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but after a little bit of time, we forget the source of the information that we got. So we don't know if we read it in Encyclopedia Britannica. We don't know if we saw it on an Instagrammer's post. We don't know if it's a false quote that we heard from somebody. We don't know if it was our drunk uncle that said it. We forget the source of information. But once we hear something, after a little while, we just believe that it is data. It's just facts. So it's really easy for us to kind of repeat it and remember it. And pair that now with this, with confirmation bias. So you heard something that is absolutely false from somebody that you know, it's not that you trust them or don't trust them, but they're certainly not an authority on the topic. And then after a few weeks, somebody's talking to you and they say something about the topic and you're like, oh, well, that's not true. Actually, it's like this. And you repeat the thing that person said. There's no work cited. You did no research. You don't know if it's actually true, but you just repeated it. And somebody's like, huh. And they trust you. Nobody's like walking around. They're not like the source police and saying, where did you hear that? And what data and evidence do you have to back that up? Because if you do have people you talk to like that, you probably should get away from them because they're obnoxious. But keep in mind, you just perpetuated false information to somebody else. Now you forget that you told that person that, and 6 months later, somebody else is bringing that up, And then you hear somebody say what you already believed because you said it to them. So in the chat, somebody else says what you already said to them. They learned it from you. Now you're hearing it from them and it confirms what you already believe, but you're just repeating what you said. I see this all the time. I've been in chat rooms for Twitch and YouTube for years and years and years. Back when, like, you know, media companies used to allow comment sections in news articles, which was like the best because it was such a dumpster fire. I used to see this all the time. You would have somebody say something, and then like 26 posts later, somebody responds the first time they read the article, and then somebody else repeats what that person said like 20 comments earlier. And it's funny to watch, but it's sad too, because it's literally the same bad information or bad opinion, but it's repeated by 3 different people, and they all heard it from the same person. And then when somebody comes in and they're like, yeah, actually, that's not true, it's really easy for us to be like, oh, I don't want to hear that. I mean, I've heard it from at least 3 people it is true. That's dangerous. And echo chambers online magnify confirmation bias to such a great degree that it's damn near impossible to break through. It's so hard. Like, and I've tried. I mean, there's some times where I pull people aside and I try to talk to them about things that it's very clear to me that they've heard lots of propaganda about something, but they really don't have a clue what they're talking about. It's so hard to even present that there might be a different way of looking at something, or that opinion might be wrong. And man, it is so dangerous. It's so dangerous. So, importance. Let's go to this part. Confirmation bias is important because it may lead people to hold strongly to false beliefs or to give more weight to information that supports their beliefs than is warranted by the evidence. So people may be overconfident because they've accumulated evidence to support them, when in reality, much evidence refuting their beliefs was overlooked or ignored, like I just said. Evidence which, if considered, would lead to a less confidence in one's belief. These factors may lead to risky decision-making and lead people to overlook warning signs and other important information, like, I don't know, voting for people that are actually horrible and that there's plenty of evidence to support, like, not that they really don't have your best interest in mind. But you ignore it because it's not coming from sources that you like and it's not saying things that you've already heard. Does this sound familiar? I hear people talk about, and I'm not going to get political too much, but when you talk about people who say like, oh, we need term limits, we got to get these people out. Or, hear me out, this is a crazy idea, you vote for somebody else. If you don't like what this person's doing, you vote for somebody else, but we don't do it. We don't do it. As a society, we just don't do it. School board members are on the school board for 25 years. State senators are in office for the rest of their lives. Governors are on their 4th run. You know, I was from Pennsylvania. We had one Bob Casey, and then we had Casey's son. It was like literally lineage. It was generations. New York is the same way. They had governors running like family dynasties, and it's like, man, you keep complaining that things are getting worse and worse, but when I point over there and say it's probably that guy that's making it bad, or at least not helping, you're like, I don't know about that. It's probably something else. Maybe we should throw money at it. So the implications. Medicine, law, and interpersonal relationships. So obviously, you know the stream. You know that I want to care about more personal things that matter to you, things that are in your actual relationships than, I care about politics. I don't care about politics nearly as much as I care about you and your relationship with people that you care about. But it does have an impact on that. So we talked yesterday about first impressions. Does anybody remember that? We did the recency and the primacy effect. I'm going to kind of build on that with now you have confirmation bias. Well, Dan looked disheveled when he came to the party. I never met Dan before, but he kind of looked like crap. So I think that Dan's probably crap. So now his opinions are probably crap. And when he does and says things, I kind of ignore it. I'd rather hang out with somebody else, anybody but this Dan guy. That's exactly what confirmation bias does. Now, it turns out because Dan has some really important things to say, and maybe he's very intelligent, and he just had a bad day the first time I met him, I'm missing out on a great resource or a great networking partner or a good friend. Maybe Dan could have been a good friend. But we continue to look for evidence that supports our belief that Dan's a piece of crap because we had that primacy effect, and we saw him look like crap. So now, I don't know, he sneezed or something, and we saw that he didn't totally cover his mouth, and we're like, see, that's Dan. That's piece of shit Dan. It's just we ignore the fact that he wiped up after somebody else's mess when they spilled a drink on the table. They held the door for somebody else, and they got up when somebody else was tired, and he just kind of realized they needed to sit down. But Dan's a piece of shit. So we're just going to keep confirming every time we see something negative that Dan does. We're going to continue to feed our belief that Dan is a piece of shit. Poor Dan. By the way, if you're Dan and you're watching this, I'm so sorry. I'm just picking a random name. You're not that bad. I mean, maybe you are. You can let me know, but you're probably not that bad. So doctors often have a preliminary hunch regarding the diagnosis of a medical condition early in the treatment process. This is where it gets scary. This hunch can interfere with considering information that can indicate an alternative diagnosis is more likely. That's real deal, man. This is real deal. A doctor can give you a diagnosis, and then they look at just evidence that continues to support it. I have a friend, I was just talking to him, his wife was given a diagnosis of basically terminal cancer. And thank God another doctor looked at it and gave a different opinion where he's like, yeah, actually, this is a super duper ridiculously rare tumor that is not malignant. And we can get rid of it, and then she's going to be fine. And then the other doctors, because they believed this doctor, were able to say, that's really interesting. I like what you're saying. Let's try to figure it out. Sounds like an office that you know of. Yes, chickmate. That is very familiar to me too. So it gets dangerous when you get somebody who has that kind of bias. And if my friend's wife didn't get another second opinion, they would have just continued down that rabbit hole where they told her she was going to die. They were getting ready for her to die in like 4 months. She's going to live a long time. She already had her surgery. She's already doing really well. I love her, and I'm really happy that she's okay. And she would not have been okay if those doctors just gave in to their confirmation bias. It has real implications. They do talk about law a little bit. Okay, so it can lead to unjust verdicts. This is important too. And in interpersonal relations, confirmation bias can be problematic because it may lead to forming inaccurate or biased impressions of others. So we already talked about that. So I'm going to give you a different example. Stop looking at that screen. Look at me. I guess you can listen to me. You don't have to look at me. Police officers, they get a hunch. They look at some evidence, and they believe that somebody is guilty of a crime. What do you think confirmation bias does to impact their investigation? Are they then looking at with open eyes to see all the evidence that maybe it wasn't this person, but maybe it was somebody else that committed the crime? Or do you think that they're going to continually focus on their person of interest that they assume is guilty and continually file piece by piece by piece evidence that continues to condemn the person they believe committed the crime? I mean, there's nobody in this room, but I'm going to tell you, I hope that your answer was obviously that they're going to continue to try to find evidence to frame or convict the guy or girl that they believe is guilty, and they're not really going to have as open of an opinion. So this is why it's so dangerous to be considered a suspect. So many times people have been found years later on appeals on death row that they were not the person that committed the crime. But detectives will continue to look for evidence that supports their theory. Once they get it in their head that somebody's guilty, they're like a dog with a bone, and they will find that evidence. And more importantly, confirmation bias tells us they'll ignore the information that says otherwise. It's inconvenient. They don't like it. They want to close this case. They want to convict. They want to go to the prosecutor and give them a full amount of evidence that will allow the prosecutor, the district attorney, to find this person guilty, to prove to a jury of their peers that they're guilty. That's why jury selection is very important. If you look at the Amber Heard trial, one of the most important parts of that was jury selection. Because if you've already been tainted, if you already have an opinion about somebody, and then you're being expected to be fair and impartial and look at all the evidence, you already have a bias. So this is why some people go to trial and it's a nationally interesting case and everybody already believes they're guilty. Guess what? They're going to be found guilty. Simple as that. Because it's easy to continue to confirm what you already believe about this person. So, lady law is not really blind. There's no real such thing as blind justice unless you have somebody like, a typical criminal case. You don't know anything about the person. You find a bunch of evidence and then you just kind of consider it. It's a lot easier, but it's part of why media attention for cases is so dangerous before it goes to trial. That's why a lot of states won't let you release any pictures or first and last names of people that are going to court. Florida doesn't. That's why people forget this. But the reason why a Florida man is a meme is because Florida is one of those states that allows at an arrest for somebody's mugshot and information to be published. A lot of states don't for this very reason, because if you release that and everybody sees that you were arrested and they look online and they see your face and police arrested you on the suspicion of committing this crime, you're already biased that this person's guilty. The fact that you saw them get arrested is biasing you towards their guilt. That's why it's a bad law, but it does make for some really funny memes. So, that's confirmation bias. If you guys have any other questions about confirmation bias, feel free. Or if you want to discuss other places, other roles in life where that happens, that's great. I'm happy to do that too. But I wanted to talk about confirmation bias because it's interesting, and I think it's something that we can work on. To be aware of what your belief is, be aware that you have a vested interest of being right, and try to look at new information. It's hard, but try to look at new information and seek out and research opinions and information that is opposite yours. If you can look at the evidence that the opposite side of an issue is looking at and presenting to you, and you can still comfortably say, yeah, I looked at the evidence, I still think I'm right. Good on you. I think that that's a good position, but be aware that if you continually just follow the same people on social media, you keep watching the same channels, you keep watching the same videos, you keep reading the same types of articles from the same media outlets that all clearly have a bias. If you're not looking at people who are opposite of you, it's really hard to say that you actually know what's going on. You know a side, but you don't have an informed or a fully informed opinion. So it's important to kind of maybe keep that to yourself, or at least disclaim your opinion by saying, look, I haven't really looked into this much. I don't necessarily know this is true, and I've really not looked at both sides of it, but this is what I've heard. That might help people to not necessarily believe what you're saying, which would be a great thing, and then they're not going to continually repeat the same stuff. And that, my friends, is the more you know. So why are people afraid of clowns? Do you know why? Psychologists think they do. I found an article talking about it. Look at this. This is so creepy. I don't know if you guys remember this. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but there was a time where people were dressing up as clowns at night and just walking slowly towards people at parks or in their cars, like in parking lots and things like that. It was just this weird fad that was going on it was like 2008 to 2010. Every once in a while you'd see like some news article about people dressed in dirty clown outfits and just like walking towards people. Did you guys remember that? I think it was really messed up. But when was this written? This was 2019. And they're saying that the clown attack craze reached a fever pitch in 2016, but I want to fact check that real quick. Everything you need to know about the clown attack craze. I need a free account to read this article. So I guess we're not going to dig into that. But I don't know if you remember that. It was a big thing. Like, it was like a thing that people were doing, and it was freaky. It was weird. Like, people were just like, I don't know. So there were movies about creepy clowns and all this other stuff. And in 2019, apparently in the fall, ads featuring the white painted faces of characters like It Chapter 2's Pennywise and the Joker were plastered across billboards and liable to pop up on TV or computer screens at any moment. Ooh. Are any of you guys afraid of clowns? Interested to know. Asking for a friend. I actually am not afraid of clowns. I don't care. I think clowns are stupid. I don't find them funny, but I'm not scared of clowns. And I didn't like the new It. And I don't know if that's a hot take or not. And I didn't even bother watching It Chapter 2. It holds no interest for me. But Killer Clowns from Outer Space If you were here for that, we did a watch party for that. Like that was man, that was like 2 years ago. That was fun. That's a funny movie though. It's like stupid. So this article goes on to discuss why people are afraid of clowns because there is a psychology of clowns. If you talk to people, usually there's somebody who's like, "Oh, I'm like deathly afraid of clowns." Although professional clowns have long been fixtures at family-friendly events, Dr. Rami Nader, don't know who this is, but they're a registered psychologist practicing in Vancouver. Oh, they're Canadian, eh? And they're at a stress and anxiety clinic. The fear of clowns often stems from the feeling of not knowing what's going on in the mind of the person behind the face paint or mask. So have any of you guys done haunted hayrides? Or gone to like haunted houses, or like there's this abandoned prison in Philly you can go and do a tour of? If you've ever done one of those, you know, like there's people in masks. There's people who do like the Leatherface thing. They get the fake chainsaw. Hopefully it's fake. And they chase you around, or they'll try to scare you, or like go boo like in your face or whatever. Funny story, my cousin actually was in that prison and doing that haunted whatever tour, and she thought there was a person who was working at the place, but it was actually a crazy homeless person, and they did actually attack her, and they got arrested, and they found out that like this person was like squatting in that place, and they've been looking for him and whatever. So it's the reason why I bring that up is you might be afraid, and then you're thinking, oh, it's an irrational fear. These people are paid actors. Like, not always. And I think that this fear that Dr. Rami Nader brings up is really accurate. I think it has part to do with our like survival instinct, that when we see somebody wearing a mask, we don't know what their facial expression is. It's like when somebody's looking at you and they don't smile, but they don't scowl, or they don't make any impression at all. They just give you like dead face. I think in a lot of ways that's more anxiety provoking than if they actually were to look at you angrily, because we can at least anticipate that if this guy's coming at me and they're giving me a scowl, I have to be ready to defend myself. I was just talking to a lovely lady over at the cigar bar earlier, and she said that she has a neighbor or a friend. I don't know if it's a neighbor or friend. Hopefully if it's a neighbor, they are their friend. And they had a Doberman Pinscher, and this dog, or it was it was a Rottweiler, and they just beeline at you when you first come to their place. This dog doesn't bark, doesn't do anything. It just looks right at you and then beelines to you as fast as it can. And so the first time she saw this dog, she was thinking to herself, do I kick this dog? What do I do to handle the fact that this dog is about to maul me, but the owners are standing right here? What am I going to do about it? Well, the dog stopped right in front of her and then was like, duh, pet me. Like, but you don't know, because there's no expression, there's no barking, you don't know the intention of this dog. They're just staring at you while it's running at you, and that made her terrified. As it should. Because if part of what makes people scary to us, or anything, is not knowing why it's going to do what it's going to do or what it's going to do next. Our anxiety, and this is something that I make the distinction about all the time. Fear is always about something you know. So I'm afraid of the poisonous snake in front of me. Simple, right? It's poisonous, it's a snake. I don't want to get bit. Like, I'm scared to get bit by this rattlesnake. That's a fear. A phobia is more of an irrational fear of all things that look like that, but even if they're not an immediate threat, we're still scared, or if we see a picture of it or a movie. Phobias are different. Not talking about that right now, but that's fear. Anxiety is the terror of the unknown. So it's way worse than being afraid, because you don't know what's going to happen next. And that creates terror in our core. It's what makes that fight, flight, or freeze thing pop right up. Whereas fear, we can kind of keep a distance from the thing we're afraid of. If I'm afraid to fall off a ledge, I can kind of move over to the side. If I'm afraid to get hit by a car, I can move over to the sidewalk. Terror is because I could go insane. It's completely irrational. I don't know what's going to happen next. And I see something that could be dangerous, but I don't know. I don't even know what it's going to do. And clowns personify this perfectly. They have makeup that makes them have a big frowny face or a big smiley face. They got weird makeup on. They got this weird hair. They got that stupid nose. And you don't know what they're going to do next. And you don't know this person. They're covering up their identity. That's pretty terrifying. It's like a legitimate rational fear. to be afraid of somebody who doesn't give you an indication of A, who they are, and B, what they're going to do next. So clowns' faces are disguised, and they have these large artificial displays of emotion, which I just said. So I'm not going to read that because I literally just explained that. There's Joker, which was a great movie, but I'm not going to watch it again. This other person, who's a professor of psychology at some other college, adds that clowns have a long history of being seen as suspicious, which again, like, duh. You know, like, some of the very first clowns were the court jesters, which we're going to talk about, who poked fun at kings and made people in high places uncomfortable. That was their job, and we're going to talk about why that's important. That's why they exist. From medieval Europe, they're designed to make people afraid. If you go all the way back to the beginning of clownhood... This is my favorite thing of the day so far. If you go back to the beginning of clownhood, did you think you were going to hear that today? If you go back to the beginning of clownhood, they've always been bad. They're pranksters. They play tricks. So, you know, when we're talking about clownhood, I just think that's fantastic. That's one of my new favorite words is clownhood. Then another person, David Kaiser, for the Ringling Bros, told Smithsonian in 2013, even going back to ancient times, clowns always had a dark side. That's kind of creepy that he would say that. In one way, the clown has always been an impish spirit, which I don't know. Do you guys know what an imp is? I can show you what an imp is. So an imp is like a gremlin. It's like a goblin. These people are like goblins. Like, it's really like a goblin. So they're like these little tricksters. They're like little demons that come in and they cause problems. They jinx you. They, you know, like, they're bad. That's what an imp is. So it's an interesting way to correlate that because it's true. It's about mischief. So mischief meaning like there were things called brownies in Europe. There's gremlins. Like you look at World War II, there's a famous Bugs Bunny cartoon about a gremlin taking apart the plane. It's something that causes mischief. So of course, pop culture's recent trend toward depicting clowns as menacing and murderous hasn't helped improve their reputation. I think the reputation preceded the movies, but that's just me. When people hear clown, the first association that pops into their head are killer clowns in the movies. It, the Joker, and then John Wayne Gacy, obviously, serial killer of the week. That'd be great. I'd love to have that overlay. If you guys want to make me that overlay with like a slide, we could do like the serial killer of the week. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that, but that'd be fun. But John Wayne Gacy was a real life mass murderer. We don't even know all the people that he killed. He killed kids. He was horrible. He was a disgusting human being. So this is all it's a creepy picture of a clown, but these are all the influences that we have about clowns. Someone having an actual phobia of clowns, which is coulrophobia, is rare. So I don't know. I'm not going to get all into the details of that. That's kind of like down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to talk about the phobia, but it's the difference again between having PTSD, like an actual post-trauma stress disorder, like where it's impacting your life, and just being afraid of clowns. Like, we could be afraid of clowns. It's kind of all rational, but you don't have to say that you have a phobia of clowns just because you don't trust people in masks. It's fair to say that we don't trust people in masks. But yeah, so that's clown. Why are we afraid of clowns? Well, I think it makes sense. There's a history of it. Clowns were imps, and we don't trust clowns. So then I'm going to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about Shakespeare's clowns. Shakespeare's clowns and fools. Fools or jesters would have been known by many of those in Shakespeare's contemporary audience as they were often kept by the royal court and some rich households, which I did not know. There's actually it was just like rich families had their own clown. I don't know, man. If I had a lot of money, the first thing that I'm not thinking of installing in the house is a clown. There might be somebody to clean. There might be somebody to make food, maybe a gardener, but I just wouldn't think, well, now that we have money, honey, we should probably hire a clown. It's kind of weird. So anyway, but they did. And they would wear flamboyant clothing, carry a bauble or a carved stick, and to use in their jokes. They were often allowed to get away with satirical comments that others in the court could not. So they could make fun of people like the king or a lord when everybody else would probably be killed or at least punished for saying anything about. They would still have to be careful, as we saw in King Lear, which hopefully you know your King Lear. The fool was whipped for going too far. King Lear is just that's a great Shakespearean story. Highly recommend, read Shakespeare. It's very accessible. There's like really great readers where it has the Old English text and then it has like the kind of like explanation, like the New English text so that you can understand what the hell they're saying. Shakespeare utilizes these characters of fools, also sometimes equated with the word clown, throughout his plays to a variety of differing ends. But in general terms, he most often portrays two distinct types of fool. Now remember, this Shakespeare is one of the foundational building blocks for all modern media. So like Hollywood and any entertainment today, Ringling Brothers, Shakespeare plays a role because of the Globe Theater and because this is a tradition of entertainment. So you may think like, why does it matter that we're talking about Shakespeare? Who cares what he did? Well, what he did informed everybody that informed everybody that informed everybody that you watch. So this is sort of like your history of entertainment. So here's the two distinct types of fools. Those that were wise and intelligent, and those that were natural fools, like idiots, like like slapstick. So your old Steve Martin movies, you know, like we were talking about Dirty Rotten Scoundrels earlier today. Very funny movie. And it's a lot of slapstick, but it's also sort of intelligent. But they were clowns, but they were scammers, but they were very, very funny. You can see some of Shakespeare's wise fools in Touchstone and Fest, the Twelfth Night, Lear's Fool, whereas some of the natural fools include Lance from Two Gentlemen, Bottom from Midsummer's Night Dream, and Dogberry from Much Ado About Nothing. So there's like, those are the different types of clowns. And they sing, they dance, they have crazy outfits. This is kind of the tradition of clowns. But the intelligent clowns are the ones that would inform the audience of what a fool the leader was, or what a fool the main character was. The fool, in other words, points out who the real fool is. That's the genius of him writing in clowns, him writing in jesters. Jesters often become a mirror for how stupid you must look or how stupid you sound when you say or do that really stupid thing. And they get away with it because they actually look ridiculous. Whereas if it was just a peasant or it was a knight making fun of the lord or the lady of the house, not so much. That's a good way to get your head cut off. So jesters were really important because clowns were the way you would be clown yourself. So somebody would like look like a fool. That's like the point of Shakespeare's clowns and fools. So this goes over the definition of like jigs and comedy and costumes and all that stuff. You can look at that at your own leisure. I'm not going into all that. That's not the point. The point that I'm making about clowns is they often were the only ones that could cut through the bullshit and tell somebody, hey, what you're saying and doing, or like the thing you just ordered, is really stupid. Here's how stupid it looks. Duh, here's me being the king. I'm saying that we need to kill all the birds because we don't like birds, and all of a sudden we're all starving to death. Which is Pol Pot or Mao, if you get into that another time. But clowns were good at pointing out how foolish you are. And it was a really important tool for the wise in leadership. It's probably why those rich people had people like that, because ego was obviously a much bigger deal, but these were people who could break through ego and kind of give you a dose of reality, which is kind of cool. We already talked about the intelligence curve, talked about standardized tests. Okay, so that's it. I mean, I really wanted to talk about confirmation bias. How do we fight it? You can use satire. You can use comedy. That's why comedians today are such a big deal. That's great. I love using that as a tool and a template. And so a lot of times when you hear me talk about things or make fun of things, and a lot of some of the best people that are online, we can use comedy as a tool to point out the absurdity of the world. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Clown World, because we're living in Clown World. Everybody's a fool. And that's the things that are going on that you see in mainstream news is so ridiculous. It's like, it's just literally a clown world. It's like, there's not even clowns anymore because the people who are talking on nightly news are looking and saying things that are just so foolish that they might as well all be clowns. That we might as well all be clowns because we're all so foolish. So it's a time-honored tradition. It's really cool. It's one of the things that, again, bringing it back to relationships and how we can help ourselves and how we can help each other. Use some comedy. Have a fool point out foolishness. Don't be afraid to let your ego take a hit if it means kind of giving information to somebody about how maybe the way that they're doing things or saying things is stupid or at least wrong-headed. It doesn't have to be stupid, but that's kind of the things that I wanted to deal with today. I think it's important. I think that confirmation bias is one of the great evils in our society right now, because we are literally just, we're not changing our minds. We're getting into echo chambers, and unfortunately we don't have a Shakespeare today to shake things up with some really good clowns to let us know. But there are plenty of people online. There's plenty of entertainment. There's good movies. There's good YouTube channels. Seek out people who are willing to make fun of the popular opinion. Remember that if you're just repeating the popular opinion, chances are it's not because it's right. It's because everybody keeps repeating it. Confirmation bias and continuing to get evidence that supports what you believe doesn't mean you're looking at all the evidence. It just means you're looking at all the evidence that supports your opinion. So with that, I am opening it up for suggestions, questions, issues, comments, complaints. I'm not going to do much about most of the complaints, but I'll do something. So feel free to put that in the chat. I'm going to go into the YouTube chat specifically. And let's see. It doesn't mean you're looking at all the evidence. It just means you're looking at all the evidence that supports your opinion. Oh, some guy just said that. All right. I see the chat. I have Twitch chat up. I have multi-stream chat. And Facebook. That's the other one. So if you're chatting in Facebook, I can see that too. So let me know comments or issues or something that you want me to go through. I do have the dry erase board. Let me see if I can show you that. We're in full screen chat. Oh, whiteboard cam. Let's see if I can show you that. Yeah. All right. So the whiteboard cam is active. I could do some diagrams. It is a little glitchy still because I don't know what I can do about that. I think it's literally just my computer is kind of shitting the bed and it can't handle it with the graphics card. Sorry, but I can do some dry erase board work if you want. And yeah, so I'll just leave it for a second for you guys to put in those requests. Let's play a little bit. Let's do another track, actually. And then otherwise, we are going to wrap it up for today. I'm thinking about playing a game at the end of these streams. Like, it's 9:20. I could probably play a game for like 40 minutes. But I'm not just going to do it to do it, like I said before. There we go. I'm going to have some music going. And you guys can let me know. If there's stuff that you want to talk about, it's fine. Otherwise, that's cool. I have a couple different things to work on. I have some cool announcements that are coming up. There's some stuff cooking in the kitchen. I have to get a lot of different stuff worked out for that. And I will have a guest, hopefully tomorrow. If you have an idea for a guest, please let me know, because it is not definite tomorrow, but I am working on it. To get a suggestion from Patrick Clark, who was here last week. If you didn't watch that and you want to know more about your financial future, feel free to go back and watch that on YouTube, The Life Coach. You can see that interview that I did with him. It's very informative, and he's really cool. So I'm going to put this up. Like I said, unless somebody says something, that's it for today. And check out the social media. Please go follow my Instagram. Follow me on subscribe, please, on YouTube. If you're not subscribed already, go to YouTube right now in a different tab and go to The Life Coach, Holistic Life Consultants. You will find me. Subscribe to the channel. You can always go to the website, holisticlifeconsultants.com, become a member, set up an appointment with me, get free consultations, and you can also get all the information and documents and things that we have behind the paywall. This has been our Wednesday evening stream. Thank you all for joining today. It has been fun. It's been a pleasure to be here. I hope you learned something. I hope you have something to talk about with your friends, family, enemies, and clowns alike. And have a great evening. I will talk to you all tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. And then, like I said, hopefully I'll have a guest. All right. Good night.